24th of July this evening, and I'm here at Lound Wood. We're looking west from here to hint of red just touching the clouds there in the low western sky. It's a beautiful night. There's not a breath of wind, not the slightest breeze. It's quite humid and it's perfectly still. There are hundreds and hundreds of Myrmica rubra alates, that's winged males and queens, on the wing. Most of them are on the top of my car, or using that as a launch pad to have sex in the air. Aren't they the lucky ones? But it's a lovely night, lovely evening. I'm hoping we get a few moths. Numbers are down now, and on the grapevine it seems to have gone very quiet. No one's catching anything exciting to post on Facebook or elsewhere. So we'll see what we get. It's the perfect night for it. A beautiful late July night. We're already in the last week of July. Where's it gone? As you can see, the Phacelia field is still pretty much in full flower. I don't know what the white plant is. It looks like a type of knotweed, to be honest. Maybe someone will enlighten us on that. But that's the view looking south. Eakring village is tucked away in the trees there. And this is, geographically, it's very well placed, I think. This got this area of deciduous, well, mostly deciduous woodland on the left in form of Lound Wood, the Lound Wood annex, which is made up of all old trees. You've got 6 metre wide set aside strips which have been in place now for many years, and so there's lots going for this site, and it has an area species list now of about 710 if I remember correctly. So I'm looking forward to this evening. I tried to trap here last night, but I very quickly got rained off before it even set up. So hopefully better luck this evening. And it'll soon be time to start setting up and getting the generator running. Well, we're off and running on the 24th of July 2025 at 21:30, 9:30 in old money. Let's see what's going to turn up. It's surprising how dark it's got and how quickly it's got that dark. 9:30 able to start this evening. I probably could have started 10-15 minutes earlier, to be honest, but we are a month after the longest day after all, and say July draws to a close, the nights draw in, and August draws ever nearer too. In terms of moths that have come into the light, Anarnia pellucidalis is one such species. That was the first moth that came in, actually. And in terms of Nottinghamshire, 10-15 years ago, it was described as rare by one county recorder, and it used to be. There weren't that many records, but apparently now it's gone great guns. Everybody's catching it, and catching it frequently too. It's still not a moth that I catch every moth trapping session, but far from it. But I do catch several a year now, so that was nice to come in. It's Nothing sparkling, but quite nicely marked moth indeed. Of the micros, Prutella xylostella is in. That causes diamondback moth, potentially a migrant, but this will be a homegrown individual. And a very nice period is coming, Acrobasis consociella. There's a number of similar species and they're all equally as beautiful, and consociella is one of my favourites, as you can see by the photo. It's very attractively marked and coloured too. Of the macros, there's been a single magpie in briefly, double striped pug, and yellow shell. Yellow shell is not a moth that I show you fairly regularly, purely because, despite it being common, it doesn't always show up. And there's a tendency at the light that when one does show up, it never actually rests with its wings completely flat to the sheet. But it's a very attractive moth, not as yellow as the likes of brimstone, but it's very intricately marked. It's more golden yellow, or a dull golden yellow, than the brimstone is. But there's also a quite brownish form, which at first glance looks like something unusual till you realise that it's a yellow shell and marked the same as the normal colour form, but very attractive moth nonetheless. So, perfect conditions for trapping, absolutely beautiful, a darkening sky and lovely temperatures of 18 centigrade. You can't complain at that. Well, here's a beauty. This is a gold spot. Although they say gold spot, the spotting, or the two spots on the forewings, always seems more silver than gold to me, but it's an absolute beauty. And certainly if you catch this moth in the right light, the rest of the wing will reflect or give off a golden sheen. It's a beautiful moth. The head and the front of the thorax is a beautiful sort of rusty orange colour. It's a smart moth indeed, and one which thankfully is common. It will turn up in gardens, never in numbers, and occasionally will fly by day too, but it's an absolute beauty of a thing. Well, here's an unusual thing which has just dropped in at the light, and it's a large white. Obviously, must have dropped out of its roost close by, and it's the first time that I've ever had large white turn up at the light. Occasionally I think I've had a red admiral, maybe a small tortoiseshell once too, and you can occasionally get butterflies out, and it's usually because you're trapping near where they've decided to roost, and like many whites, large whites will roost on the foliage of trees. But it's certainly an unusual thing to add to tonight's species list. I didn't think large white would make it on the list. Well, the number of moths coming to the light now has increased notably in the last sort of 10-15 minutes or so. We're just after 11 o'clock and we're on to about 50 species. I didn't think actually we'd reach 50 species by the end of the night, but a decent number of species seems to be on the cards. Still nothing rare. The only species that's really unusual, although it's going to become increasingly regular, is box tree moth. Had two here last year, which were the first for the Eakring area, and there's another two moths in now. Otherwise, it's fairly run-of-the-mill stuff and typical for what you'd expect for this time of year. I still think something unusual is going to drop in. So we've got the perfect night for it. There's not a hint of a breeze, a nice warm, pleasant temperature, lots of moths. Well, here's a channel favourite, and I have to talk quickly because the number of moths coming in has increased and things are starting to get a bit boisterous. It's yellow wandering season, and talking of yellow, here's a fabulous brimstone, a really silver yellow moth. We don't have another moth with this kind of coloration really, not on the macro moth front. It's an absolutely stunning moth, and as a bonus, it is common. It's found equally commonly in urban areas as it is in more rural locations. It's a moth which you will soon catch if you're new to moth trapping. And we're just at the start of the second brood now, and so there should be good numbers of these over the coming weeks, and it is just an absolute beauty of a moth. And I have to show this particular species, as we're on about beautifully coloured moths, and this is a fabulously marked moth, and it's black arches, of course. And with this being a male, look at the ridiculously feathered antenna on this moth. Fond memories from this very spot many years ago when Dillis and I trapped one of these here, and it turned out, if I remember right, to be the first one in Nottinghamshire for many, many years. And it's increased in that time too. We soon started to catch it elsewhere, in Sherwood Forest especially. Amazing how after all those years nobody caught one of these in the county, and then all of a sudden they're everywhere. But a beautiful moth. There's not much that is marked in this kind of manner. As you can see, it's very busy around the light. Quite a lot of the moths have settled down. I don't think I've seen so many moths that have come in, had a bit of a fly around, a buzzing around the light, and then settled down for over an hour. In some ways, it's a very inactive sheet, because the yellow underwings there's one that started to come in and bash everything about. Lovely moths, large yellow underwings and broad-bordered yellow underwings, but they do just bash everything to bits. Just nice to see another sheet with plenty of moths on it. We're on to 4 or 5 box tree moths now. One moth which has not long since come in is scorched carpet. It landed briefly and has then disappeared. It's probably on the box somewhere, but that's a nice moth to get. Scorched carpet, always like to get scorched carpet. Good numbers of lattice heath as well. Some moths have done very, very well indeed. They've had a great year, but they needed a great year. What happens in 2026 will probably depend on the winter we get. Well, I've mentioned a number of yellow underwings during the course of this video, and this is broad-bordered yellow underwing. It's not very often they settle down, but they're a beautiful moth, huge-bodied, very powerful moths. And they hatch out initially in sort of July, and then they tend to go quiet. They'll tuck themselves away and then reappear after a few weeks. Large yellow underwings also do it. But say, a very strong moth, very powerful moth, and quite boisterous when you get these at the light, although not to the extent of large yellow underwing. But a beautiful moth all the same, and it's nice that I've been able to get to actually film one of these. Stunning moth, very variable. You can go from this sort of light brown chestnutty colour through to a really dark olive green. Very variable, but an absolute beauty. Well, this moth has been in all night, but it's just been mucking around and just going from one end of the sheet to the other. But it's white spotted pug, and it's quite well marked. It might not look it. It's a fairly dark one, this one, but has those characteristic quite bold white spots along the trailing edge of the forewings. It's a nice species to get. It's not a common pug, and certainly not a pug that I would trap regularly during the course of a year. So white spotted pug, it's the only pug apart from double striped pug right at the start of the night, but that didn't hang around to be filmed. So always pleasing to get white spotted pug. It's a nice one for the list tonight. Well, it's 1 o'clock and I'm quite happy to call it a night. I know that there are moths still coming in. The first hornet has just arrived at light, funny enough. Took its time in arriving, but it's the first one that we've had in at light this year. And it's been a great trapping session. Say nothing particularly exciting in the way of species. No new species for the Eakring area, but a nice range of species and good numbers of moths too, better numbers than what I expected. So, time to switch off and get packed up.